Were you familiar with Material Issue, Josh?
No, were you?
No, nor was I.
Yeah.
I hadn't even. Not only was I not familiar, much like Therapy question mark, I hadn't even like heard of this band in passing as a reference point, like
Yeah.
some of the others. Like we talked like a couple weeks ago about like not really knowing the music of say Manic Street Preachers or Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds or other
Yep.
things, but like their names came up enough where I'm like, oh, okay, these are people they're talking about. These two bands, two of the three we covered this week, I had never even like really heard these
Yeah.
band names before. Yeah.
Well, Freak City Soundtrack is the name of the album. It was released in 94. This album is 2 on Best Ever Albums album rankings of theirs. They are this album is 912 in 1994, 9,367 in the 90s, and Material Issue over is 13,008 in the overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what'd you think of this one, Josh? I'll give some biographical information. Let me first ask you a question.
Yes.
Would Matt love this album, really love this album, or intensely love this album, Josh?
I think he would really love this album.
Yes.
The middle.
I agree.
I mean, I
It's at Mattcore.
Yeah.
We've done a genre for Matt's taste that I think this falls in Mattcore.
yeah. So give some bio, and then I will give my thoughts.
Well, I'm pulling it up as we speak, so give a
Okay.
little bit of a take and I'll build it in. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. So this falls. I thought this was an excellent album. This is Josh Core as well. This also falls into the John and Josh bonus episode album Hidden Gem subgenre on the spreadsheet that discoveries.
One of
that
my
we
favorite
had.
genres.
Yeah, really. The other artists on that are like Afghan Wigs and I don't know. As long as we
Well, Afghan Wigs were in a real episode though too. You know what I mean? And like they would have been the big we ran out of time, so they were a little bit more mainstream. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd have to find the other. How about the Jonathan Richman album?
The Jonathan Richman album definitely falls
Yeah.
in John and Josh Hidden Gems.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is on that level for me. I love this almost immediately, mainly because it's like a combination of big star and like 70s rock guitar
Yes.
riffs, and
They are described as a power pop trio from Chicago, Illinois, whose pop songs deal with themes of love and heartbreak. So, yes.
and in a comedic and fun way, I would add. They're not only with their song titles but with their lyrics, the combination of sounds that they have. I am surprised that this. Well, I'm kind of surprised and not surprised. I guess I would hope that this band was probably bigger than they were, especially since we never heard of their name before. But
they were not super big.
yeah, but this is exactly the type of rock and roll I like. This is also kind
But
of
you're right, Josh. They were considered to be the Cheap Trick and the Knack of the 90s.
exactly
Yes.
both bands that I like as well. Although we never covered Cheap Trick, did we?
No, or the Knack.
Yeah, so weird. They're kind of like a big outlier, I think. Cheap Trick, at least. But yeah, this is a surprisingly catchy song. It's a perfect...
Can I do one last thing, Josh? Is that
Sure.
interrupting?
Yeah.
They were produced by Jeff Murphy of the band Shoes, another deep cut
Shoes.
band for me who I loved. So another,
yeah, I remember really liking that too. I think
not
you
a
were higher
not a
on-
John and Josh because
Yeah.
we all covered it. But
Yep.
yep. Mhm.
I think we all liked that. That was
We did.
long time
Yep.
ago. But yeah, it's got big guitar riffs. There's a song called "A Very Good Thing," which clearly has like Wolfmother riff, a guitar riff that Wolfmother ripped off or something. I feel like.
Yeah, there's a couple riffs I recognized in this. There's a riff that's very close to a Monkees song on this as
okay.
well. Mhm.
But yeah, starting with "Going Through Your Purse," which is the opening track, I feel like it kind of sets the tone. It's talking about a guy who goes learning a lot about a person by going through their purse, which I thought was funny. Kim the Waitress is the second track, and also just has an earworm of a hook, and it pretty much goes on in that. With the album being 35 minutes, there's really no bad songs on this. Other tracks that I really liked were "The Fan" and One Simple Word has a huge guitar riff with a line that just like Evil Knievel that kept running through my head. And A Very Good Thing was another one with that Wolf Mother riff. This just, I don't know, this just works really well as a rock album. I really kind of like their retro sound, and it's just also kind of in the vein of like Matthew Sweet in terms of what I like. It's really it really just kind of gets back to that power pop sound as well. Although it's a bit heavier than I would say like Elvis Costello is, but in a good, like really accessible way, kind of in the best of the 70s rock sound. And this was a great album and a real hidden gem. So thumbs up.
Yeah, this album sounded like $1 million too. I love the production of this album, and then I read that Mike Chapman did it, and he did a lot of Blondie albums, who I always love how they sound, and he did The Knack, which obviously, if you've ever heard My Sharona, that's almost like a perfectly produced pop song in terms of sound. And he also did he did Scandal, like The Warrior, like another song that's perfect production. And another band that I'm shocked we didn't cover, Josh, along with Cheap Trick, is Sweet, a band I love. He did Ballroom Blitz and Fox on the Run, and like a lot of songs I love, and I always love that band. So maybe we could have a whole episode of like stuff that we like remembered that we hadn't covered like on this album and put it together. But yeah, Sweet, another band I really like. So yeah, he has a very clean sound, and this album sounded great. You mentioned Matthew Sweet for sure. I heard elements of that along the way. I also wrote down Teenage Fan Club, another album I really loved. I thought they had some similarities with that. You're right, Josh. I don't know why I didn't put it together that it has like a late 70s feel. Obviously, whenever you do power pop, you think of Big Star, and they are in the 70s. But for me, they're more like mid 70s, right, along the way. But really enjoyable album, a quick album. I enjoyed the lyrics too, even though most of the lyrics are about falling in love with, someone, or, almost like, worship core, like of a girl who's special, which usually is like eye rolling for me. It doesn't kind of go into like a hacky area. It's because they take interesting angles on the lyrics, I thought. And, like Going Through Your Purse was pretty funny. Like Kim the Waitress is about. Did you think it was like they had the hots for Kim the Waitress, or more that they felt like Kim the Waitress could like see through them, Josh? I felt like it could have been either way.
Yeah, I feel like it was the latter. They were kind of like, they did not really necessarily like trust her, or like they were wary of her, I guess would be a better way to say it.
I felt the same thing. Yep. And I could use a good longing rock song, and She's Going Through My Head, same thing. But I think the standout cut on this album was Ordinary Girl. I really liked that song. I also liked how they use different variations of Ordinary and Ordinarily and stuff within the song to talk about the girl they admired, but it was a little clever wordplay. Even though the bass lines were not complicated, I really enjoyed the bass lines. They were a nice little. They were produced excellently, and they were tasty little bass cuts in the background. And it didn't take me very long to get behind the lead singer's voice, even though it was. I wouldn't say it was like traditionally pretty. But it was certainly on tune. In that sense, another band they remind me of that we haven't covered yet is like Jimmy Eat World. I feel like they have some similarities there, and that they write the same type of song. I know sometimes Jimmy Eat World is sort of like where power pop and like emo meet. I don't think this really went too far in the emo sonic
I would
palette.
say it really at all.
Thematically, like it could be what was there later, but I don't think maybe they trod quite the line. Not a Surf is another band that this band reminds me of a little bit. Another band we haven't covered, but I know Matt is very fond of. So if you're looking for touch points, there's some that I had. But yeah, a real hidden gem, Josh. I liked all 11 songs. I found this to be incredibly easy to listen to, and it just pressed all the right buttons in terms of a great. It was a very versatile album, also, that you can listen to it in your car, you can listen to it on the stereo. It was a good headphone album. It fit. Like there wasn't anywhere where this didn't feel like it fit in. So I'm trying to. I always am amazed when I hear like a really good power pop band, and we've done, I feel like, a really good job of finding rock solid, bands that have this tunefulness to them. Even going back
Yeah.
to the '70s, right? Like the Flaming Groovies and Big Star and the Soft Boys, right? Was another one that I think
That was
of
high on
that
my
was
list
like
too.
that.
Yeah.
Undertones, like. And then you've got this one. You had Teenage Fan Club.
Nick Lowe, he's kind of power
Nick,
pop
Nick,
too.
but Cruel to Be Kind was a big hit. So in
Yeah.
fairness, that was it. But like some of these bands where you're Sugar, right, that we
Yes.
covered,
Yep.
and like I'm like, how did these bands not like break into the mainstream? Because like by the early 2000s, you were starting to get these bands breaking into the mainstream a little bit more, and it always is kind of amazing to me that a band can write this many pleasant songs and catchy songs and just it feels like this genre like died between the years 1973, had a little bit of a renaissance with some of those bands we mentioned like Cheap Trick and stuff, but even Cheap Trick is as much known for how big they were in Japan as they are here, so it's kind of crazy to think that these bands didn't break through and who did. So but yeah, really strong thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed this album. Will it be in my like top 20 of the decade? I don't know if it'll rise quite that high. I did like a little bit more of what someone like Teenage Fan Club did. I thought there was just a little bit more heft to their version of this. But yeah, really, I knew you'd like it. I know Matt will love it. And it's an area where all three of us kind of come together in terms of a sonic palette that we like. So thumbs up.
Yep. Yeah, I figured you'd like it.
Yeah.
And I knew Matt would like it as well. But yeah,
Pretty
great.
comfortable.
I'm glad we got to listen to it in terms of, probably never would have been a band that I would have heard of had we not
Correct.
done it on the podcast as a bonus. So
That's kind of the fun of this podcast is I think you and I kind of come at it from the same angle, Josh, where there's an enjoyment of listening to music that all of us have, and then there's an enjoyment of like this as a history lesson kind of. Like
Right.
I think we like that like map of connecting things. I think really in particular appeals to me and you, where it's like, oh, I can see the DNA of where this came from and where this comes from, and then the referential stuff where we start to see these songs appear in media,
Yep.
which is also kind of a funny thing. And for me, the fourth is connecting with people who like love some of these songs or these artists in the comments that they leave in our in our individual album reviews. And one of the cool things is we'll cover some of these bands that were unknown to us, like deeper cuts, and people will share their stories of like how they knew this band, and I really like that. And I like also from my friends who are musically inclined saying like you should check out this great deep cut. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Good
any
stuff.
final thoughts, Josh, before we did bumper next week's episode last week, and it will be next week's episode, but any final thoughts before we remind folks what we might be covering next week?
No, and just another. I love the singles. I love finding these albums, and it's my weekly music, my music therapy, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So
Question mark?
yeah,
So yeah, hopefully not question mark, hopefully
Yeah.
exclamation point. So yeah, or not shrug emoji, but
Yeah.
anyway, we'll get off that. But do you mind running down the albums that we're going to cover in the full episode next week?
sure. So next week we're doing. Matt will be back. We've got a full normal episode. We've got Mobb Deep with the infamous, Selena with Amor Prohibido, Oasis with What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Scott Walker with Tilt. All of those are from 95, except I saw Selena's actually from 94. So we're still in the
Okay.
94 section a little bit, but
You-
moving into 95.
And there's 4 completely different genres in there.
Yep.
And one of the things that I enjoyed was Matt loves Oasis, as do you, Josh. And I certainly like them too. But I would think that Matt would be most excited about covering What's the Story, Morning Glory, and I'm sure he is. No, Matt is most excited about revisiting Scott Walker because it blows his mind that Scott Walker is releasing albums in the the year of our Lord that passed, 1995, and so he wrote me a text that's just like, I can't believe we're covering Scott Walker. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It was a strong thumbs up for me back in 1968, Josh, in
Yeah.
season one. Yeah.
The only thing I remember about that album was it being so unusual and kind of groundbreaking in some ways, and just kind of
I
avant-garde.
remember listening to it in COVID, and in one of the times listening to it on my porch at like 1 a.m. in the morning, and it just so perfectly matching my vibe at the time as a one. And it was a weird time, COVID, right? Like time was a relative idea. So the fact that you could be up at 1 o'clock and it was just normal at that point, because it was sort of like, I have a job, but am I doing it? So it's kind of yeah, it fit in the time. So I'll be interested to see now that we're in the 90s in terms of where our heads are music-wise, but also in 2024 in terms of where the culture and life is right now, how I'll react to Scott Walker. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah. All right. Well, for Josh and for the pour one out for Matt, who's out in the world right now, this is John. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, as you listen to these individual album reviews or listen to this show and want to comment, you can head over to YouTube, listen to the individual album review or find it, and then just leave your thoughts, criticisms, cosigns on
Your eternal
any of our
jammers
album reviews.
of the
Yeah,
singles.
what are your